Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Jordi Yanoshik, and I'm the Learning Specialist for Students with Disabilities at the Weingarten Center at the University of Pennsylvania. Today's presentation is called Follow Through Without Getting Burned Out. This webinar is designed especially for students who struggle with staying on top of responsibilities, managing time effectively, or maintaining momentum throughout the semester. Many students assume that success is all about motivation and willpower. In reality, following through consistently often depends on having the right systems, supports, and strategies in place. Whether you have ADHD, identify with some ADHD related challenges, or are simply finding yourself procrastinating and feeling overwhelmed, the ideas that we're going to discuss today can help you work more effectively while still protecting your energy and well being. So, our focus today is not on doing more, it's on creating conditions that make it easier to do what matters most without exhausting yourself in the process. So, let's jump in. So before we get into some new strategies, I'd likely like to briefly review a couple of concepts from part one. One of the most common challenges associated with ADHD is difficulty in perceiving and managing time. Many students describe experiencing only two categories of time: now and not now. So this can make future deadlines feel distant and unimportant until suddenly they become urgent. So as a result, students often know exactly what needs to be done. The challenge is initiating tasks at the right time and maintaining momentum before a deadline becomes overwhelming. Think about paper due in 2 weeks. Logically, you know it exists, but emotionally and mentally, it may not feel real until the night before. So, by understanding this difference, this can help us focus on creating systems that make time more visible and actionable. Another major takeaway from part one was that structure can be incredibly helpful. Many students try to keep everything just in their heads. Unfortunately, our brains are not designed to function as planners, calendars, reminder systems, and project managers all at once. So we look at external supports to help make time visible. So examples of this include calendars, planners, visual schedules, timers, alarms, time blocked calendars. Time blocking is particularly useful because it turns a long, unstructured day into a series of manageable chunks and tasks. So instead of thinking, I need to study sometime today, a time block schedule helps you decide exactly when you'll study, for how long, and when you'll stop. Structure just reduces decision fatigue, creates clarity, and the more clarity you have, the easier it becomes to take action. All right, so now let's discuss some tools and strategies that can make everyday life feel just more predictable and manageable. First, morning routines. I'm a big fan of these. Consistent morning routine reduces the number of decisions you have to make when your energy and focus when you're is still waking up. Simple reminders placed in strategic locations such as your bathroom door, your mirror, refrigerator, on the front door can help you to remember important tasks. Preparing the night before can also be incredibly powerful. Laying out clothes, packing your backpack, or reviewing your schedule can make your mornings a lot smoother. There's also the practice of starting your day with intention. What this looks like is asking yourself, what's the one thing I absolutely need to accomplish today? Asking this question helps you focus your attention and prevents you from becoming overwhelmed by a long to do list. Finally, build in buffers to your schedule. I see this all the time with students. underestimating how long things are going to take. Adding extra time in between activities can reduce stress, allow for unexpected delays, and make transitions easier. A schedule that has some flexibility is often more sustainable than one that is just jam packed from the second you wake up to the second you go to bed. So, speaking of bed, let's talk about one of the most overlooked academic success strategies: sleep. So, college culture, it can celebrate staying up late, pulling all nighters, but honestly, sleep is one of the most important factors affecting concentration, memory, mood, productivity. Having a bedtime routine helps to signal to your brain that, hey, it's time to start winding down. Now, this doesn't have to be a complicated routine. It can include things like brushing your teeth, reading a few pages of a book, doing some stretches, laying out your clothes for the next day. You can also think about using timers as a way to kind of help promote some sleep hygiene. So, students will tell me that they lose track of time when they're watching shows, when they're scrolling, gaming, all of those fun things. So, setting a timer for things like lights, for app shutdowns, for turning off the TV or laptop, that helps you to transition towards bedtime. And it's just a good practice to try to avoid screens during the last 30 minutes before sleep whenever possible. And remember, the goal here isn't perfection. The goal is creating habits that make quality sleep more likely. Remember, better sleep often leads to better academic performance, and that is without requiring extra study hours. Limiting digital distractions. Oh boy. Technology. It's so incredibly useful, but so incredibly distracting. Apps, websites, streaming platforms, they are designed to capture and hold your attention as long as they can. So, this is why we have to be intentional about creating boundaries. So, here's what we want to consider: things like this: screen time limits, website blockers, focus modes, apps like Circle, or we have other digital wellness tools that we like and list on our website. So definitely check that out. These supports can help protect your study time from constant interruptions. Another simple strategy is turning off autoplay on streaming services like Netflix or YouTube. Autoplay removes the moment of decision making. When the next episode starts automatically, it's easy to continue watching without thinking. Disabling autoplay creates a pause where you can ask yourself, do I want to keep going, or is it time to move on? Sometimes you just need a couple of seconds to pause and reflect to make a more intentional choice. Now let's talk about building in accountability. Accountability is a powerful tool, especially when your motivation is low. So, students will tell me that they are more likely to follow through on something, whether it's a personal goal, academic goal, whatever, when someone else knows that they are working on it. Accountability doesn't mean that there's someone like hovering over you watching your every move. It is just another way of creating external support. So, what could this look like? This could look like meeting regularly with a professor. They love it when you come to office hours. Checking in with the tutor. We have tutoring for undergraduates at the Weingarten Center. Take advantage of it. Working alongside a study partner. You know, if you have someone in class, maybe you're working on something, you just want to make sure that you both get it done. Joining a study group. You can also just tell a friend what you plan to do and then check in with them later. You can do something as simple as sending a text message like, did you finish the draft? That can help create momentum and accountability. Some students also like using accountability apps that track progress or connect them with virtual study communities. The key idea is that success does not have to be a solo activity. So now, when we think about how to approach things, and again, we're talking about not burning out, we want to break big projects into smaller steps. So large assignments, those can feel really overwhelming because our brains just tend to focus on the size of the project rather than what's the one step that I can do now. So when a task feels too big, avoidance follows most of the time. And so we think about breaking projects into smaller pieces. So what we want to do is move away from writing kind of these general, larger, lofty goals. So we want to avoid saying things like research paper. We want to break this down a little bit more, where we want to think about what are the steps necessary for writing this research paper. So we need to choose a topic. We need to find the sources. We need to read the sources. We need to create an outline. We need to do drafts. We need to revise. We need to submit. All of these are part of doing a research paper, but what we're looking at are these individual steps so that we don't have to feel like we're doing it all at once. Setting mini deadlines, saying, I'm going to finish the reading by Monday. I'm going to write the outline by Wednesday. I will have some form of a draft on Friday. That makes it a lot easier to visualize these goals and to plan for them and to finish them. So, smaller deadlines. Think about it this way. Create momentum. Reduce the pressure that comes with waiting until the final due date. But also, put these in your calendar. That's always the next part of it. Because as much as we want to plan, if you can't see the plan, you're not going to do it. All right. So now let's talk about motivation. Because, yeah, we talked about all these things, but what about when you just don't want to do it? We have to kind of think about why you're doing this. So when you're struggling to start a task, it can be helpful to connect your actions to a larger goal. So, it's easy to just focus on what is happening in the moment. So you may think, I have to study instead of hang out with friends. So we try to reframe that a little bit and to focus on what you're gaining. So think about this. If I complete this work earlier, I'll have more free time. My stress will be reduced. I'll have better sleep, greater flexibility, more time for fun and relaxation and hanging out with your friends. So it feels good when an assignment is finished before the deadline. It removes that sense of dread, that anxiety, and replaces it with senses of relief, control, freedom. And it's worth it because connecting present actions to future benefits can make it easier to stay motivated. One of the biggest misconceptions about productivity is that self-care and academic success compete with each other. In reality, they support each other. Sleep, nutrition, movement, and rest are not rewards that you earn after completing work. They are foundational tools that help you do the work in the first place. When you're well rested, nourished, and physically active, your brain has more resources available for things like focus, memory, problem solving, emotional regulation. One way to kind of help build this strategy is to choose a consistent bedtime. Having bedtime creates positive pressure to finish your work earlier and helps prevent late night cramming. Remember, productivity is not about squeezing every possible minute out of your day. It is about using your energy wisely and sustainably. So, as we begin wrapping up, I want to emphasize something important. There's no perfect productivity system. What works great for one student may not work at all for another student. So the goal here is not to copy someone else's routine. The goal is to discover what's going to work for you. So managing time and follow through, it requires some experimentation. You want to try a strategy, evaluate how it worked, make some adjustments, try it again. So you don't need to implement 10 new strategies all at once. It's totally fine and reasonable to pick maybe one or two, see how it goes for a couple weeks, and then maybe add on to it. Remember, small, consistent changes tend to be more sustainable than major overhauls. And then this is what I want to leave you with, these 3 reminders. First off, keep it simple. You don't need a complex system. They often fail because they're difficult to maintain. Simpler systems are easier to use consistently, and we know consistency is key. Second, ask for support. Seeking help is not a sign of weakness, it is a skill. Successful students regularly use resources such as mentors, advisors, tutors, professors, support services, learning specialists. Third, make sure that you are celebrating the small wins. Progress is built through many small successes. Finishing one reading assignment, attending one study session, or submitting one assignment early may seem small, but those actions add up over time. And most importantly, remember that struggling with follow through does not mean that you are lazy. It often means you are learning how your brain works and figuring out strategies that support your success. So again, thank you so much for joining me today for this webinar. I hope that you've come away with a few practical strategies that you can start using right away. Remember, you don't have to implement everything at once. Just pick one or two strategies that you want to try that feel manageable and build from there. And of course, if you would like individual support, personalized strategies, talk about your situation, how to apply it, come connect with us here at the Weingarten Center. You can scan this QR code. We're here to help you develop skills, overcome challenges, and create systems that support your academic goals. Thank you again for your time, and I wish you all the best during your time here at Penn. Take care. Bye-bye.